Hi there, and welcome to another episode of Spiritual Athletes. My name is Lindsay, and joining me today is TK Sanders. I am so excited to be talking with you today. For those that don't know, TK is a writer and an author of the Integrity Method, and which is like a spiritually focused manifestation kind of background. And I am so excited to talk with you about this topic today and how it can relate to sports and athletics in your past and history, and how other people may be able to apply some of these like incredible principles to their goals and aspirations. So thank you for joining me today. It's such a pleasure to have you. I'm so excited for this conversation. So thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to get into this. I think it's going to be a really, really cool conversation.
Yeah, I do too. And we'll try to not make it like 6 hours long, but we'll see what happens. um, well, so there's a lot to cover because the topic of the law of attraction and manifesting. I don't want to like oversimplify, your focus, but seems to be a topic of a lot of your content and things like that you've kind of talked about before. There are so many aspects that we could touch on just that topic alone, but let's start talking about you.
Sure.
I would love to know your background, and we can talk about the sports and fitness aspects of it and how it applies. So maybe let's just start there and see where it goes. So can you give us a little background of like your experience in athletics? You can go back as far as you'd like, if it's all the way to a kid or young adulthood or whatever. Yeah, just let us hear what your sister history has been like.
That sounds great. I'm 35, and so I've been out of sports, out of um, organized sports for, about 15, 17 years. I played basketball, baseball, football growing up, some tennis. I've always been into golf. Playing sports has always been an incredible part of my life. Athletics has always been extremely important to me. Now, looking back on it with some hindsight, I understand now that I was not of the headspace at the time to move forward and be elite. And I understand that it takes a lot of, people want to call it mental toughness. I think looking back on it now, it's just a shift in perspective that I was really missing at the time. I was focused on other things. I was kind of trying to figure out who I was instead of really focusing a lot of,
Oh,
focusing
sure.
all of my effort into trying to become the best athlete I can be. And that window is so short to really transcend and become something special. I just wasn't, I didn't have it between the ears at the time. And it's a little bit sad because I'm 6'4", 200 pounds. It's the perfect size
Oh.
to be a baseball player. And it just it didn't work for me at the time. But it has sent me on this incredible journey of, I went to college, I played intramural sports. In my 20s, I played intramural sports, little beer leagues around town. I'm getting really into pickleball right now, but they're just, and I've always, like I said, I've
Oh,
always been
fun.
into golf, but there seems to be this incredible connection to spirituality and being both a team athlete and just a personal athlete, someone who really cares about their own body, who cares about their own success, because so much of this spiritual work is about the self. And that's what we're going to talk about today is really about self-development. There's a million different ways we could go in this conversation, and I don't want to pigeonhole it to just, quote unquote law of attraction. I think people can get the wrong
Right.
idea sometimes. They maybe think that it's magic or voodoo or a cheat code, or
Right.
they think it's woo woo or
Yeah.
or it's anti-religion in some ways. But I, what I want to
Right.
really discuss is developing the self and using athletics as a backdrop for that discussion because it really is perfect. So just a quick, just to blaze through the rest of kind of my story. when I was about 27, 28, so this would have been about 2015, I fell in a really dark hole. I was feeling very depressed. I was drinking too much. I did not feel good. And I had to start changing everything about myself. And it has been a journey that has literally led up to this very moment. And I'm still learning each and every day. And I'm bringing this message now of true development and true, you can call it self help if you want, because it sure has helped me. But this overarching, I'm sorry, feeling of transcending that mental anguish that held me back in my formative years that I think a lot of people can relate to, especially in 2023. So this is really is
Oh yeah,
about
absolutely.
transcending the pains that that you feel growing up as an adolescent or in your 20s and you're trying to figure things out.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, It's really interesting, and I definitely want to touch on the self concept and development side of manifesting. One of my favorite things about just the law of attraction in general, for me, and I want to get into your background, how you came upon it, and sort of delved into those topics. But what I love about it is, once you understand the principles of manifestation, if you will, like the thought and then the emotion and then letting it go. Like once you understand the basics, to do it properly, you can't really do it properly without proper self-reflection, because once you identify those beliefs, you can't do it with resistance. And once you identify those beliefs in you that might be causing resistance to what you're hoping to manifest, it's you have to look at how and why you came to those beliefs, and then you really have to reconcile those beliefs within you, your worthiness, or whatever the thought may be, to remove that resistance to actually get what you want. And in turn, it's like super motivating, because these principles of attracting what you want, everybody wants to be able to do that. And it's like, what better way to try to get there? But you really have to do the inner work to properly utilize those principles. So I think we'll touch on that a little bit more. But tell me, how did you get into that kind of thing? Like, what is your background in just religion or spirituality in general? How did that evolve for you over the years?
Sure. So I learned pretty early that I was a good writer. Um, I understood story structure. I understood.
Yeah.
I could just hear it in my head the right way to say something, or especially how to write a good sentence, something that captured people's attention, how to build tension. So now what I do, I still write for a living. This self-development project, which really just started for me this year, has turned into
Yeah.
this very cool illustration of the principles that I put towards my writing and what has made me a successful writer, and has become, like I said, an illustration of, let me say it again, a metaphor essentially for that same type of process. So to me, I teach people how to rewrite their stories according to spiritual principles. So when I work one on one with a client who is looking to improve the way they feel, they're looking to understand the world around them better, they're looking to strengthen their relationship to God, they're looking to have more things in their life, they're looking to have more success, they're looking to have better relationships with their spouses or their kids, or their parents. What I'm trying to teach them is that they have definitions of words that are imbued in them at a very young age. Words like belief or desire
Mm-hmm.
or identity. So what I try to do with people, the same way I try to write, is a good writer will subvert slightly what it is the reader is expecting. And you deep dive into definitions and you really try to give the person a new understanding of something that they thought they already understood. So really, the
I
secret to
like
good
that. Yeah.
writing is just editing, just as the secret to athletics is practice. It's just an act of bringing yourself to the table,
Right.
putting forth the effort, and then overcoming resistance to success. And that's the key to the law of attraction. I don't know how
Mhm.
much your readers your listeners are familiar with the law of attraction. It's such a buzzword these days, but all it really says,
It is. Yeah.
all it's saying is that like attracts like. What you are putting out is what you are attracting back. And that's just pure physics. And you're not there's no
Hmm.
there's no dark energy pushing towards you, and some people might take exception with that, but I truly don't believe there is. It's just there's only the light, and you're either allowing it to shine on you or you are resisting it, and you're holding up your hand or you're holding up an umbrella and you are purposefully living in the shade for some reason that has to do with your beliefs or your desires or your
Yeah.
identity. And most people just don't get down to the granular level of their lives. Just like most people don't get down to the granular level of sports. They don't really put in the effort and
Yeah.
really put
Right.
in the absolute 360, like this is what I am, this is what I'm trying to become, and this is how I'm going to get there. And it takes a long time to get to that point. Like I said, I've been at this for 8 years at an obsessive clip because
Yeah.
the writing and the self-development, it's just
I
so
feel you.
like this brain,
Yeah.
yeah, people that are OCD or anxious or like you guys get it. You can only you can't relax
Hmm.
unless you're focused on something, and then you eventually realize, oh, I could have relaxed the entire time. So you start to understand that self-development is really just a giant permission slip. Okay, you are giving yourself, it's just like being a kid
Hmm.
and you got a permission slip from your teacher to go to the water fountain. Like, this is all that this work is. You are giving yourself permission to feel better. And the only way you're going to do that is if you truly
I
understand
love that.
what spirituality means and why it's important. So to me, spirituality, and I'm sorry if I'm jumping ahead of your questions, but we can just get right in the middle of this.
No, you're
Spirituality
fine.
is based in
That's all good.
three things. Spirituality. It's based in philosophy, which is an intellectual consideration of human nature. Basically, how do I fit into this world that came before me?
Hmm.
And a lot of people get really hung up in philosophy, and a lot of doubters think that all spirituality and all religion is just philosophy. So that's the most human element here. Then you have physics, the intellectual consideration of physical nature, aka how does this world around me behave and respond to me? And if you start really diving into this work a lot, you're going to understand and you're going to see that physics is both permanent and pliable. So the universe responds to you. And there's a lot of physical experiments that are proving that. And there's books that are asserting with a lot of evidence behind them that basic science is kind of come to a head. Like all that's left now is for scientists to start exploring consciousness because they know
Right.
basically everything there is about basic chemistry, basic biology. Now we're moving into an era of consciousness.
Hmm.
And the last
I
pillar
love
of
that.
spirituality is
Yeah.
faith. And it's the intellectual consideration of God's nature or any higher power's nature.
Hmm.
How do I let go and put trust in something greater than myself?
Yes, absolutely. Couldn't agree with that more. And that might be
It's
the most difficult part for some people.
it's extremely difficult, and it's also the most
You
important
know?
part because that's the permission slip. But you're never going to
Right.
give yourself permission to have faith in anything bigger and better than yourself without understanding the philosophy behind it and the physics behind
Hmm.
it. So this is 360
Yeah,
work.
absolutely.
You
It
can't
sure
be a great
is. It sure
football
is.
player without understanding the the rules of the game, so to speak, and the strategy and
Yeah.
and your body. It goes for any sport. You have to dedicate yourself to this stuff. Otherwise, you're never going to be successful. Not in the way that you could be.
Agreed. And it right, and it's like when you get down to the level of just consciousness and awareness, and being the owner of what you focus on to essentially create your own reality. I mean, and in all of those three different aspects, what you have to have is the ability to think about it. You know what I mean? And the power of thought, and creating with your thought, and analyzing with your thought, and all of those good things. I saw a quote on your website, because full disclosure, like I said, I didn't actually get to read your book yet, but I'm planning on it. But it stuck out to me. It was, whatever you decide about the universe is true, therefore you are always correct. And I loved that quote because it really starts with the decision, in your own mind to, first of all, take the time to think about it and deeper, you know what I mean? All of those things. And you have the full control, in your mind to, make the decision to do that self-reflection, to learn the physics of it further, or, to pursue a faith. And then there's the power of being able to apply whatever meaning, you want to give to any situation, and how that can sort of shape your reality and circumstances, and ultimately your outcomes. And I think, as you apply it to sports and things like that, being aware of your thoughts and the way you process thoughts and your awareness of your thoughts, consciously making the decision to keep them, directed in the places you want to be going, I think is where you start to learn how to utilize, the power of just having conscious thought. What inspired you to, if you recall that quote, it probably has been a while since you wrote it, but any further thoughts on what made you create that statement in the first place?
Sure. Well, I have listened to hundreds of hours of seminars on this kind of stuff. This is esoteric work, okay, which means it is hidden to some, but very obvious to others. And it only becomes obvious when you really dedicate a lot of time to it. A lot of reading, a lot of books. Everyone is saying the same things. And eventually, for me, I was a hard case. It took me years, and I didn't work with anybody. It clicked. It finally clicked. And I started to see how everyone is saying the exact same things in different ways, and everybody was saying the exact same thing, that the universe is a mirror, and that it is giving, even...
Right.
So I was raised a Christian. I still am a Christian. I deeply care about my Christian faith, but I also see it in a way that very few people do now, and I see it on a vibrational scale. I see the Bible in a way that it's written to reflect vibration. So, again, if any readers haven't or listeners haven't heard about vibration, you are emanating vibration at all time, and the vibration is what attracts like vibrations. And
yeah, absolutely.
Understanding
that's a whole science in itself to understand.
That's a huge piece of the physics.
How to navigate those vibrations, right? Yeah.
Right, and that's the most basic understanding that the law of attraction work can provide. But like I said, I start seeing it. I start really thinking about it like a writer. I start thinking about it in a way that's, I'm trying to come up with why. Again, it's definitions. Like, why do we think the way we do? How do we interpret things? So if I read the Bible now, and I'll read a Bible verse about prayer, and it's saying, ask and you shall receive, basically. And it's, well, the reason that you're receiving is because when you ask, and you ask the right way, not as God as a wishing well, but understanding that He is the motor that is driving the car. You just have to decide which way to point it. When you understand that, it's the same thing as a mirror. You ask, and if your vibration can match that of what you want, really, if we really want to get deep into this, it's not necessarily matching what you want. It's just matching the vibration of as good as you can get, and then everything starts flooding in. and that's a small
Right.
difference. That's more of a professional difference, but that's the key here is you understand that you start bringing to the table that which you want to see. And it doesn't mean you have to become this, it doesn't mean you have to become super specific. So if you're trying to be a professional baseball player,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't mean you have to show up and wear I'm a Braves fan. You have to wear a Braves jersey every single day to be a Braves player. But you have to start inhabiting the idea of what it's like to become whatever it is that you want to be. You want to be a
Mm-hmm.
professional athlete, you have to understand what it takes to be one, and what it takes is inside of you. It's not necessarily just what you do. You can't just go to the ballpark every day and become a professional ball player.
Yeah. And I think like removing doubts is really important too. Um, because, and that's where you get into like the resistance of getting yourself to the correct vibration because it's, you know, for whatever reason you might have a self-worth issue or a belief, instilled from, long ago that makes you sort of like doubt that either like you might not be deserving or capable or whatever the reason might be that you need to work through to sort of get to that place where you feel, open to receiving and like you're worth it. I saw a video of yours actually on that topic, not to shift gears too much, but you had a comment where you said the arrogance of doubting your self-worth, and that really resonated with me. In regards to God creating you as a perfect being, and for you to doubt that He did that, created you a certain way. To be doubting your self-worth is sort of like an arrogant act. To be like everything else is perfect
That's
but
another
I'm not.
definition.
Like I loved that quote. Could you happen to speak on that a little bit further?
Yeah, it's basically what you just said. I mean, to understand the totality of creation and to understand that everything works in perfect harmony, to reject that, it's not it's it's not sinful in the way that people think that there's some sort of damnation to it. What sin is a missing of the mark. It's a missing of what makes life so delicious. And to reject your own worthiness, to reject your own perfection, is a massive, massive sin because there's no one judging you saying that you have to act a certain way in order to get what you want. The universe is saying act however you want and you're going to get it. So it's arrogant to show up to the mirror and say, I want this thing. I can have whatever I want. I understand this, but I'm going to decide that I'm not good enough for it in some way.
Mm-hmm.
And luckily, I never really dealt with self-worth issues, maybe a little bit when it came to like interpersonal relationships, like trying to meet
Mm-hmm.
women early on or something.
Mm-hmm.
The key to overcoming self-worth issues and the key to overcoming doubt is really just to get out ahead of it. So you have to start creating an atmosphere in which you don't need that feeling anymore. It's not once they're there and once your vibration has taken that dip wherever it naturally wants to go, it's very hard to climb out of those types of holes. It's kind of like being in a slump. I'm going to use as many athletic metaphors as I can for this podcast
Sounds
because
great.
I talk like this to people and they usually roll their eyes because they're like, all right, we get it, you're a sports fan. But the audience
That's it.
here
I
is
love it.
sports fans, so we're gonna talk. It's like being in a slump,
Heck yeah.
and you need to
Yeah.
the way to get out. People, you can bang your head against the wall and say, I can't do it, I can't do it, I can't do it. I'll never get another hit. I'll never get
Mm-hmm.
another hit. The way to do it, everybody knows, is to kind of stop thinking about it and to let your
Mm.
vibration raise. You gotta. I know I kind of go off on tangents in this work, but again, this is all connected. So you asked about arrogance, and
It is.
I'm gonna give you another um, image. So a lot of people think that life
Yeah.
is sort of like holding a samurai sword and cutting through a forest. And you're moving forward and you're just chopping things down. You have to react to things. If something comes at you, you have to react. You have to decide, do I want to go left, do I want to go right? And I'm gonna chop down the wood and make my path, and I've got to forge my path. There's a lot of self-worth issues in that, because you are essentially saying, I don't have faith that this higher
Right.
power is going to help me, that I have to do this alone, and I am not going to do a good job, so I'm going to stay on guard at all times. I have to be anxious. People think that their anxiety is almost a protectionary
Right.
mechanism for them, and it's not. This is all about attraction. This is attraction. This is attraction. There is no asserting yourself over the world. And if this is your first time listening to someone talk in this parlance, in this type of way, you're going to think I'm
Hmm.
crazy. But I'm telling you, keep coming back to this well and keep learning this material, and you're going to understand that it's attraction. It's attraction. It doesn't
Hmm.
matter. It doesn't matter what you've done. It doesn't matter what you're good at. It's all about the way you want to feel, because we all want to feel a certain way. That's why we want anything in life. So you start
Right.
feeling this certain way, and you just start applying that feeling to everything you do. So in that sense, you can say that faith is the crux of athletics. You understand your role. You
Right.
understand that the team comes first. Okay? God comes first. You are not the most important person on the field. Understanding that
Right.
honoring the notion of team is the best thing that you can do for success. And the best thing you can do for your team is to develop the self.
Hmm. And honoring yourself, and not being so arrogant as to not surrender and have faith that there is a higher power out there taking care of you. Um, like you said, I think that's
A higher
it does
power
come
giving
down
you
to
exactly what you ask for.
right, right.
And
I mean, and
you
to
don't ask for it with little note cards that you throw into wishing well. You ask for it with your vibration. That's how you
right,
ask for it.
absolutely. Absolutely. And if anybody doubts, I've noted a number of times in the Bible where there is, Jesus talks directly about manifestation. I actually I have one right here. I can even read it for you.
All the time.
Um, because this one I always bookmark because it just reminds me that it's not just like a new age concept that somebody developed out of thin air. You know what I mean? Like, this is something that has been around for centuries, and Jesus even spoke about it. And it comes down to belief. And I'm just gonna read it real fast. It's kind of off on a tangent, and I don't usually do this. I don't usually read out of the Bible for these kinds of things. This is the first, but this is a parable of the fig tree, and seeing a fig tree by the side of the road, he went to it and found nothing at all on it but leaves. Then he said to it, "May no fruit ever come from you again." And the fig tree withered at once. When the disciples saw it, they were amazed, saying, "How did the fig tree wither at once?" Jesus answered them, "Truly, I tell you, if you have faith and do not doubt, not only will you do what has been done to the fig tree, but even if you say to this mountain, 'Be lifted up and thrown into the sea,' it will be done. Whatever you ask for in prayer with faith you will receive." And I always just bookmark that one because it does take faith. It just absolutely does. And for those that struggle with anxiety or doubts and things like that, it is kind of like, well, just remember who's taking care of you, and trust that it will come to you when you ask for it. It's just kind of universal law in a way. So
Jesus
I think
speaking
that's
in
really
parables is
fascinating.
a really interesting thing to discuss, and I wrote a chapter about this in the Integrity Method. And just a
Oh,
little background,
fantastic!
real quick. I wrote the
Yeah.
Integrity Method basically as a version of as a journal for myself in, I believe, 2020 or early 2021, and I there's so much we could talk about with that whole process, but I
Yeah.
got so much evidence back that it was right. You know what I mean? It's like vibrationally correct. And I still
Mm.
have people. I had a family member the other day ask if there's anything I would change about it now that I'm even more adept at this work. I'm a lot more well spoken about it. And I said, absolutely not. It's
Yeah.
perfect, and it really is. And it's not perfect for everyone. It's perfectly vibrationally accurate. And for the people that are
I
finding
like
it and
that.
attracting it, they're really, really enjoying it. And I didn't really expect for it to be such a to have this kind of effect on people. But I do talk about parables from the
Mm.
Bible a little bit, and it's not a commentary on Christianity by any means. But the reason that I believe that Jesus spoke in parables instead of just flat out saying law of attraction, manifestation,
Right.
vibration is because there is something incredibly satisfying about coming to your own conclusions in life. And
So
to
true.
assess
Yeah.
the information and to find the value in it. And what does that do? It does literally what you want him to have just told you flat out, and that is to raise your vibration. It takes you when
Mm-hmm.
you understand a parable for the first time, when you hear him speak and then you really get it, maybe it happens at church or it happens in your own studies, whatever. You become a different person. Literally a different person. And we can talk about quantum physics maybe in a different episode, but uh,
I would love to.
you are literally becoming a new person. And a new person doesn't have to act the way the old person did. A new person can have
Mm-hmm.
a whole new history. A new person can have a whole new set of beliefs. It's truly, truly fascinating. And it all has to do with allowing yourself to feel as good as you can in the moment and seek this truth and seek this knowledge. And don't
Mm-hmm.
judge what you don't understand. Just seek out as much joy as possible. And when I read the Bible now, I'm just thinking about it from a vibrational perspective, saying this is what
Same
he meant,
here.
and it feels so good to come to these new conclusions. And I understand why it wasn't just perfectly laid out. And you also have to remember that men, and I'm sure women too, of not of these perfectly high vibrations like a Christ figure, these are the people that were writing this down. And there's going to
Mm-hmm.
it I don't ever want to question the validity of sacred text. That's not the point here. But you have to understand that anytime something is relayed through the mouths and ears of others, it it could face change. And you just have to understand that it's the essence that we're going for. It's not necessarily every single word is literal. It's figuring out what it
Mm-hmm.
means vibrationally and allowing yourself to rise because of it. Really, all
Yeah,
spirituality
absolutely.
is, all human development in general, sports, and anything you want to call it, is it's just an exercise in
Mm-hmm.
retraining the mind to let go and allow bigger and better things to happen. Bigger and better things that could happen
Yes, absolutely.
than could be accomplished by yourself. So what's another word for that? It's
That you
leverage.
could even imagine for yourself, right? Yeah,
Oh, you can.
right.
That's the. So a lot of
Um,
people will come to this conclusion and say, well, then what's the point of life? Like, oh, I just like if I'm just happy all the time and I get things I want, then like doesn't that seems kind of boring? And it's like, all right, well, first of all, you sound like a crazy person saying that. Second of all, it's the surprise and the
right?
delight factor. It's saying
I love that.
I want to
Yes.
travel, but oh, the universe is giving me this incredible opportunity to go check out Europe. And when I get there, I don't know what's going to happen, but I know it's going to be great. And this isn't just putting on a positive
Mm-hmm.
attitude with rosy cheeks. This is spirit. This is the essence of spirituality. This is how you get anything you want in this life. We'll talk about sports more as we go, I'm sure, but this is the zone.
Yeah.
This is the zone that you get
No,
it.
right? And I love that because, well, I mean, it gets into that like point, and I think you talk about this. You've touched on this, in your content previously, is the paradox of the duality, and just that that contrast has to exist because otherwise you couldn't appreciate it. You know what I mean? Just like
Right.
like you said, the parables maybe not being so like literal, because it gives you a sense of accomplishment. I mean, that's kind of a duality in itself, but it's just like you can't have the light without the dark. And I mean, like in any regard, because it just couldn't exist without the other. But I think
It's a whole new
you
tangent
do
we could
touch
go
on
down.
the paradoxes. I know. I'm sorry.
Polarity.
Let's
Oh,
do
it's so
it.
good. We could go any direction. I'm telling you, this is not an hour conversation. This is a 1,000 hour
I know. I
conversation.
know. We might have to have like a part 3, 5, and 12, and keep
Please.
going. But
I hope people like it.
um, Yeah, I think they will. This is such a profound topic, and it does span just every every aspect of existence and spirituality, and just like all of it,
Hmm.
and self awareness, self growth. It's just it's huge. It's just huge, and it's so much bigger than just a book or anything on the law of attraction. It just touches on so much. But let's talk about paradoxes a little bit. I know you've touched on a few of those. Um,
Topic.
too much?
Yeah.
Too much?
Paradoxes
Um,
are extremely complicated, and I I have a good handle on them. I consider myself as close to an expert as you're going to get in this kind of work, other than someone who's really
yeah.
dedicated just decades to this. And those people are that's the kind of person that I hope to be one day. But even they, struggle with
Yeah.
paradoxes because that's the whole point. A paradox is a
I
contradiction.
like that.
It's an apparent contradiction
Right?
that nevertheless remains true. And I don't mean to hijack your question. What exactly did you want to talk about with
No, no,
paradoxes?
please.
Just go with it. Okay. So
No, go for it. I was
paradoxes
just,
are
yeah.
the point of power in this life because in a paradox, again, it seems contradictory, but it's nevertheless true. So if something is true, it's true. Now we could talk. I mean, there's all sorts of paradoxes that we could talk about. Honestly, there's so many that sometimes this work is easier to like get into a specific topic, and then you start going through it
Hmm.
and you say, oh, have you noticed that this is a paradox, that this is a paradox, that this is a paradox, and you understand when you
Right.
get to those places, you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, and you don't want to say, oh well, that can't be true. You have to understand that this is the test of the faith, to understand that it is
Hmm.
nevertheless true.
Well,
And
maybe
if
I
if,
could
if,
throw one
if
out
I
for
have an
you then.
example that comes to me as we're talking,
Okay.
I'll share it.
Yeah.
But
I was thinking of like I guess if we just go like straight with like kind of just the basic principles of law of attraction, just to keep it simple, if you want to call it that, to
sure.
start. But like, how about the paradox of letting go? So you have a desire, you want it, it's something that you want to have. I mean, hey, maybe it's a sports goal, maybe it's a trophy, maybe it's whatever. Maybe it's crushing like a PR. Anyway, there's this thing that out there that you want to achieve, and you want it so bad, and you're doing the proper things to manifest that with your thoughts and your emotions, and then the final and probably most difficult task is letting it go. And how do you let go of something that you want so badly? You know what I mean?
Sure.
Would that qualify as one of your paradoxes?
Uh, that's the biggest one.
Oh shit. Oh, excuse me.
That's the you've just attracted some very bad luck with that little. No, I'm just kidding. This is it, yeah. No, that's a huge one. We can take it literally. We can take it very metaphorically, but literally, if you're trying to manifest something, the letting go process is crucial because if you can't let go of it, you are going to essentially practice a vibration of the lack of it. So, say you are in a drought and you really need some rain. If you go out there and pray for rain and act like God's a
Hmm.
wishing well, all that the universe is hearing is this is a place that doesn't get rain, and it believes you because you're always right. Now I know that's going to really that could ruffle some feathers and people you can't control the weather with your vibration. Fine. You can't again, this is about
Yes,
definitions.
you can.
This is about
I'm just kidding.
beliefs.
Yeah.
Your belief system is everything. And you just have to understand the physics of the game, but you can play any game that you want, right?
Hmm.
And the letting go is the commonality. So it's like I think I did a TikTok about you can put 1,000 balls in a gym and you can create any kind of game you want to play, and that's kind of what everyone's life is like. You're playing all these different games, but the common thing to everyone is that they're in a place, right? That's physics.
Mm-hmm.
There's gravity, that's physics, and they're all using the same thing, which is a ball, and that's just part of it, and that's the law of attraction, and that's vibration. You're playing under the same rules, but you can make up the rules however you want. Like you're using the same tools, but you can make up any rule you want, and that's the zest of life. Like other than what I just said a second ago about being surprised and delighted along the way, and that being
Mm-hmm.
so delicious in the manifestation process. The other part of that is, what was I saying? That you're in the gym and you got the balls, and
Yeah.
I lost my train of thought on that. But the point here is that, okay, so we're using the example of rain. Okay, so you need it to rain. You're going out and you're telling the universe that this is a place that doesn't rain. So how do you tell the universe that this is a place that is raining? Because you cannot be something that you're not, right? Like we try to
Mm-hmm.
be something that we're not all the time. We want to be, and all we're saying is we are not, we are not, we are not.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And we practice it over and over and over, and we do it because we think that that's the way out. We think that the way to get better at something is to just grind it out. And that's how a lot of people practice. And that's why a lot of kids get burnt out in youth athletics and
Mm-hmm.
whatnot. And it's just, gotta just go force it, force it, force it. And
And that's
this is,
causing resistance, and it's
right.
unnecessary work in ways.
This is a game of power. Power is subtle. This isn't a forceful life you're living. You're not
Mm-hmm.
cutting through the bamboo. Like I said,
Mm-hmm.
you are subtly trying to move mountains, like the parable said. You're trying to acquire the power to get what you want, and that means you have to act as if you are it. It is in you. It's not just that you have it. So in the rain example, what are you going to do? Well, you go out and you think about what it feels like to be in the rain, and to let it wash over you, to feel it in your feet, and to feel it on your skin, and to feel that relief of your crops getting rained on, and or
Yeah.
whatever it is you need that water for, or you're thirsty. That's a delicious feeling. Okay, that's okay. So I guess this is kind of what I was saying about being in the gym and playing all the different sports. Is like it is a delicious feeling to come up with your own version of what you want in this life. That's a lot of fun,
It
and
is. Yeah.
it's just as much fun as being surprised and delighted by the way that it comes. It's really fun to choose your destiny. So once you have that feeling, once you feel that rain, what do you do? Well, you want to be grateful, right? You want to be grateful because it's
Yes.
already happened. This is a vibrational guarantee, and we can talk more about the law of attraction and how this is a vibrational guarantee. And again, this goes into quantum
Mm-hmm.
physics, but you are trying
Yeah.
to
I mean,
align
granted,
you are
yeah.
trying to align with a vibration that is something that you want, and therefore you have to become that thing. You have to show the mirror that you are that. You can't show it that you want that. You show it that you are that, and that's the biggest leap
Right.
that most people can't make. And I can't even.
Yeah.
I'm just getting this too, guys. Like I'm not a
No,
perfect expert. I'm not some
I'm not an
super
expert in
wealthy guy,
anything either.
but I'm incredibly healthy, incredibly vibrant, and just life has so much color now, and everything. Like
Mm-hmm.
life is a rocket
Because
ship.
you choose to see it, right? I mean, and it comes down to that belief in your mind, and your decision to see something a certain way.
And
Because
it's a decision to appreciate that which you already
yeah,
have and that which you already have gotten. So that's the last piece of this is you want to
right.
be thankful for that rain
Yes. Gratitude
that you've already
is
experienced.
huge. Yeah. I have it tattooed on my wrist, actually.
What do you have
Gratitude.
tattooed? Gratitude. Yeah.
Gratitude. It was important enough to me to remember every single day, so I put it right there. Because
Gratitude's
I believe it is
wonderful.
one of the highest vibrations you can have, right? It's important to be thankful. But I mean, just going back to what you were saying, you're in the gym and you're with all the balls, and that's the world, and you can do what you want with it. And it comes down to, your definition that you want to assign to whatever situation you're in, and you have the choice to make it a good one or a bad one, right? And it comes down to your ability to believe. You say, okay, I'm going to make the best of whatever this situation is. I'm going to choose that this is, acting in my highest good, even if maybe it doesn't appear that way. But then sometimes it's really hard to believe it. And that's where I think people get a little tripped up, because if you don't follow through with actually fully believing in it, then then you're creating that resistance, you're creating that paradox, you're creating that lack mentality, because you can't fully believe what you're trying to convince yourself is true. And I forgot where I was going with that, but I think that's really tricky.
Just to put a bow on this piece of the conversation, I mean, that is the
Yeah.
paradox, and it's that
Yeah.
you want so badly for something to happen that you want to control the heck out of it. You want to choke it to death, but you have to let
Hmm.
it go. You have to let it breathe. You
Right.
have to you a really good manifestation tip, and choose small things, because the big things in your life, the things that you're going to keep coming back to over and over and over, you're going to struggle with those early on. And so just pick something small, and
Yeah.
just feel it. Okay, just feel it, and then give it give it 10 or 15 minutes of feeling the feeling of it. Don't make this an all day thing. All right, don't become obsessive about this.
Yeah.
You know, Eckhart Tolle is one of the
Yeah, that's the
greatest
wrong way to go,
spiritual
for
writers
sure.
of all time, and he's talking about what he's really talking about isn't just presence. Like, presence is his buzzword, and it's a fantastic buzzword. I wish it was mine, but he he's talking about letting go, right? He's talking about letting go of that need to control the perception of control of that which is all around you, and you cannot control it. And this gets into Newtonian physics and causality, and like, we are not literally living in a chain of command type of life. Like, things are arising as they come. And again, that's another huge tangent. But the paradox here is that you want to let go in order to gain control. And the way you let go is to think about something else. So you feel the feeling of it,
Mm.
you feel the gratitude of it, and then let it go. Seriously, don't ruminate about it. Be present to the moment. Give it your best
Hmm.
effort. Try to spend the day basking in something, or whatever it is that you want. Like we said,
Hmm.
the feeling is going to feel a little bit different for everybody, but this is a permission slip. You are giving yourself permission to let go. And the only way your thinking mind is going to give it, the only way it's going to allow this is if it fully believes that there's gold at the end of this rainbow. Okay? That it's a better idea to let go than
Right.
it is to hold on. And that's going to be very
So hard to
hard.
do.
That's going to be very hard to convince it, and it's going to be almost impossible if you bring
Yeah.
the opinions of others into it too. Okay, you have to make this choice on your own.
Totally.
You have to be
Um,
in your own world a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you have to you have to believe it and you have to let it go. And then I think for me that's kind of when the self-reflection part starts, because I don't know if it's like this for you, but like when you think of something that you want, and you're all excited about it, and you try to fully convince yourself that you can like have it, and get like this gut feeling when I'm just like, oh, but then I start saying but this and but that, and then I'm like, oh man, now I've got resistance, now I've got some kind of difficulty accepting that I could have this, some difficulty trusting and believing that, like,
You
I'm
don't have
capable of doing
resistance,
or
and
getting or receiving.
that's an important distinction, though. You don't have resistance. It's not something that
Yeah.
is inside of you. It's not something that you have collected, or you're dragging around. It's a choice. You are choosing
Okay.
to resist the natural stream of well-being that
Mm.
dictates this entire world, this entire universe. I mean, it could not be this way. We could not live in a universe that is constantly expanding and in perfect harmony, where planets spin in perfect orbit with each other, and there's just the right temperature, and everything is just working out so well. It could not be this way if we were not anchored by something that was so incredibly powerful that even the human mental chatter can't derail it. You know what I mean? Like, in Jurassic Park, they say that life finds a way, and that's what I always think about this kind of stuff too. It's like, you're not going to derail this perfect God vibration. There's nothing you can do Like it's paltry. It's like an ant
It's
thinking that
true.
it can tear down a building. And even if there's a million ants, a billion, 7 billion ants, think they're gonna tear down the build? Like no, it's silly. It's silly to even think about this. You're not going to do it. And that's because that stream is just, man, it's like the Colorado River just rushing down, and you're just you can't you can swim against the current, but all it's going to do is tire you out. So you don't have resistance. You don't have. It's not like you have a resistance bug in you or something. You're literally just working twice as hard for half the result,
Right.
and it's a choice.
I, s- I see your point, and I like that because yeah, I mean, you're right. It is a choice. I mean, whatever you decide, is true, right? And I guess it's just coming to the self awareness that you might have like an old way of thinking that maybe needs to be revisited, and that's kind of where the idea of self concept and um, you know, self worth and stuff kind of comes in as sort of coming out as maybe that's not the best way to have believed in things in the past, but
So this
what are
this
your
might help.
thoughts on like
Hold on. I want to stay there
yeah
for one more second because
yeah
this might actually help
please
to jog some things for you or for anyone. So how really to
yeah
let go? Well, the way to really let go and to lean into the power of the paradox is to understand that life is perceptual. It is about perception. So what does that mean? It means that there's no intrinsic meaning in anything. There's no there's no good and bad. It's up to you to assign your meaning to everything. So we've talked about
yeah
I
absolutely
said the word polarity a second ago, and this is kind of what I mean. There's positive and negative polarity in everything. It's like a battery. Okay, this is how attraction works. This is what fuels our world. There's good and bad in everything. The best thing in the world could happen to me, and a very, very deeply, darkly cynical person could say, well, that might not be such a good thing. You never know. And the flip side is true too. Something really, truly that I think is awful, someone else could think, well, that's kind of a good thing, or or they had it. Who knows? It's
yeah
you don't want to resist, like you try to resist like getting into the weeds on this stuff, but you have to understand that
yeah
there is a polarity to everything, and that it has to be that way. So similarly, life is just it's kind of it's like sports. So there's teamwork, there's goals, there's positive and negative outcomes both. There's clear cut success and failure, and that's what people
hmm
like about sports so much, right? Is that it's very much clear cut. It's simple and straightforward. There's a winner and there's a
interesting point
loser.
yeah it can be
Okay. But life isn't the same. So getting good at life, aka overcoming the mind and learning to live spiritually, is actually the opposite of sports. So getting good at life is about understanding that calmness is the key. Dropping reactivity is the key.
yes
Becoming unconditional, loving your enemy, relaxing, seeing the positive in everything. And when you start living like this,
have
you
you
start
ever
magically getting everything you want.
yeah I just being calm. I know, right? That's kind of a paradox in itself. um,
It's crazy,
like
right?
nervous system regulation is 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 that like a topic that you've ever touched on in any of your content as far
It's implied.
as
I talk about anxiety a lot.
uh yeah, anxiety, yeah. Yeah, and just kind of
Um,
avoiding that.
Regulating your nervous system, it's going to take some time because if you're someone that is always in a fight or flight response. So just a quick aside, what I do is not therapy, but it gets very, very close to therapy for a
Mhm.
lot of people because they want to talk about why
Yeah,
they're in that
absolutely.
fight or flight place. And I can hypothesize and I can help them with that, but I'm not trained to do that. Again, I'm a writer and I'm trying to get them to just learn the definitions of the things
Yeah.
that they encounter every day and then that they can decide to make the changes themselves. So, learning how to
Yeah,
regulate
absolutely.
your own energy, there are definitely physical things that you can do, and we can talk about that if you want. The physical things were some of the things that literally saved my life early on. I learned about Wim Hof breathing
Really?
in my first year or two of really diving into this, and it completely changed my life because it
Well,
it turned
yeah.
my brain off. If you've ever had that oxygen just fill up your whole body, you know what I'm talking about. Or taking that ice
Yeah.
cold shower, it
Yeah. Would you
completely,
mind talking about it a little bit?
yeah,
Yeah, I would love to hear more about it if you don't mind, because it is interesting. I mean, it is an important part too. I mean, well,
it's
everything. I
huge.
can't
It's
think of
huge.
a
No, it's
moment in
huge.
life where you can't apply it, whether it is sports or manifesting something, where you need to be able to control your physical response to maintain whatever mindset or vibration that you're trying to go for. So yeah, could you speak on that a little bit and how that worked for
Absolutely.
you? I would love to hear.
There's a perfect correlation to athletics with this too, because the finely tuned athlete takes care of his body like it's a tool, right? It's incredibly important to
Hmm.
an athlete to make sure their body is functioning on all cylinders, because not just because your muscles are going to be stronger or you're going to be faster, but because you're regulating your nervous system, and because you feel more confident when your pulse is lower and you're more in control, and but you're not actually holding on to anything. It's people who go into athletic events in a rage state or in a crazy nervous state or holding on to some, or the people that talk about like, oh, I had to get in there and get hit in the face before I was really ready to go. It's like these are people that are living in very hyper fluctuating nervous system states. And the zone that athletes talk about, we've all felt it, where everything's going in. You're not even thinking anymore. You're hitting the fairway every time, or you're not having to push through people. If you're a football player, you're getting around them quicker, or shots are going in basketball. Or baseball is the best because baseball is just so intuitive, and you're just playing, and being a kid and playing baseball, I mean, it's heaven on earth. And that's the zone. And you're only getting in the zone
That's so
when your
cute.
mind lets go, and you start, and your whole body gets out of that fight or flight response. I'm not a
Hmm.
perfect medical regurgitator. I believe it's parasympathetic.
All good.
Um, I'm sure there's a Huberman husband out there who knows exactly what I'm talking about. But it's the feeling of letting go and gaining all control. And that's what every athlete talks about. That is a vibrational raise. And if you're someone who's
Mm.
living in daily anxiety, my first, if you're brand new to this work and you're just trying to like figure out some quick answers, get moving. This audience might not need to hear that, but a lot of people do. Get outside and start
Hmm.
running. I quit drinking, like I said, I was pretty close to being an alcoholic in my 20s, and I quit drinking cold
Mm.
turkey one day, basically, and I was just, my body was wrecked from it. And it was like I would go out and run in the
Really?
middle of the night because I couldn't sleep. And it was just, I had to
Oh my
completely
gosh.
reform my relationship with my own nervous system. I had to really understand how to breathe, how to turn off my thinking mind, how to be present, how to feel the sheets on my skin and be okay with just being in bed and being awake.
Hmm.
And then I could ease back into sleep. Doing Wim Hof breathing was huge, like I said, because it forces your body with all this oxygen. You can't not be in a better mood when you do that, or the cold shower, or now I've got an infrared sauna in my office, and a small one like the pop-up one where just your head sticks out. And there's just so many little body hacks that I wish I had more time in the day. I could make videos about those too. And then there's all the body work, there's all the
Yeah.
massage, and then there's all the different modalities, and like all of this stuff is connected. It's mind, body, and soul,
Yes.
and it's all for one thing and one thing
Yeah.
only,
And but
and
like, what it really?
that's trying to
Yeah.
feel better. I'm just gonna spit it out. You're trying to
Go ahead.
feel better. That's all that
Yeah.
matters.
Right. And I think a great way to do that is to bring yourself back to the present moment, right? I mean, and it's finding a way to ground yourself in the present and calm those thoughts. You know, there's this one, I forget his name. He was some kind of very cool looking guru. But he said something about like, once you learn to control your thoughts, then you are controlling your emotions, and then aligns your energy, and then aligns your physical body, and then eventually the physical all around you. And it all starts with that thought, but calming your mind, and not always just controlling, but like controlling. It is important to be able to do that, to turn it off sometimes, or else, it can just drive you crazy. You know what I mean? And finding different ways to do that, I think it's imperative, because it just is the beginning of aligning everything else. And then it also is aligning your vibration to bring in everything else that you desire. So, it starts in the same place. So regulating your nervous system or getting in the zone, you know what I mean? Like it's the beginning of everything, and it starts with your thoughts. So, or
your
lack
emotions,
of thoughts.
Your emotions they're a guidance system. Okay. They're telling you if you are going with
right.
that mighty flow, or if you are paddling against it, if you are resisting it, if you are keeping the light from shining on you. That's what they're doing. And if you're feeling anxious all the time, you're just resisting your own positive flow. You're not, it's not a life sentence, and you can take drugs to essentially artificially turn your mind off. And I'm definitely not going to pick a fight with drug companies, but there are ways to self-regulate your body and your mind that are very natural, and they're connected to your own physiology. And a lot of it is understanding. Again, we're talking about giving yourself permission to let go. That's the key here. And I know it sounds trite and a bit silly that it's that simple, but I guarantee, unless you really put forth the effort and you really, really learn as to why it's important and why it works, you're not going to do it. You're not going to be able to do it. And that's why working with people who know what they're doing is so important, because they can truly help you to let go and also paradoxically take control of everything at the same time. Because you're leaning into the positive emotions, and when you lean into positive emotions, what have we said a couple times already today? Your vibration raises, and you start attracting things you want.
Yeah.
Absolutely. By default, you don't even have to choose everything. I mean, you can't choose every single thing you want. It's there's too many.
No,
options.
Sometimes I will journal about it and be like, oh, okay, what do I even want? And sometimes there's not that much stuff that comes to mind. I'm just grateful for the things that I have, right? And so in those instances, I just write. I honestly the term surprise and delight is in my journal about 100,000 times. So I laughed at when you mentioned that, because that's just kind of the terminology I use. But just being open to trusting and knowing that good things are going to come, you know what I mean? And you don't have to know what it is, because it doesn't matter. It's going to be awesome no matter what, right? And just having that faith and knowing. That's really interesting. But I did want to ask you. Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say that there is there's a controlled chaos to sports and to your mind, right? Like, you don't want to be a bull in the china shop when you're out on the field. You don't want to be some crazy person running around with your head cut off. That's just, even though you might be really intense and you're putting a lot of effort forth, there is a calmness to the storm. There's a game within the game that's so crucial to winning at life in any way you do it. There is a psychology to winning, and the psychology is calmness. It's stillness.
Oh, I like that.
From that stillness is where action happens. So if you watch a gymnast, for example, right before they're about to make a move, they gather themselves because they're in a moment of stillness. That's when your whole body gets ready to move. And you do it all the time without even thinking about it. You can't be in a constant state of action. So why do we have our brains in a constant state of it? It makes no sense. And that's the coolest part about this work, is that if you do it over and over and you start seeing all the irregularities to the way you were raised and the things you were taught, you say, oh man, I've been acting against my own positive nature for so long, and for no reason other than that's just what I was told. And you can immediately choose to start moving in the other direction.
I love that. Taking control, but doing it in the present form and calmly. Amazing. That's actually incredible advice. I was going to end off on your best piece of spiritual advice for some athletes. But I don't know, that one's pretty good. Do you have anything else that you would maybe touch on top of
Yeah,
that?
absolutely. If I was a spiritual athlete, if I was a spiritual person in general, start taking
Yeah.
responsibility for your life. Okay, and a lot of athletes are already going to do that.
Mm.
You're already getting up early, probably. You're already working out. But understand, and this is another definition: responsibility. What is that really? What's the root of those two words? It's the ability to respond. Okay, that's your
Yeah.
greatest power in life. It's the one gift you've been given. It's free will. You're so free that you can choose to be in shackles. You can do whatever you want to do. You have an ability to respond to everything. And so many people think, oh, well, this person cut me off in
Mm.
traffic. Like, it would be crazy if I didn't honk at them. Or my girlfriend just cheated on me. Like, it would be crazy if I didn't go ballistic. It's like, no, no, no. You have an ability to respond to everything. And the ability to respond is the greatest gift that we have. And you can take that quite literally. That's what makes a great
Mm.
athlete, is the ability to respond quickly under pressure to the game. And you can practice that in your daily life. And you're going to become a better athlete
Hmm.
because of it. You're going to become an elite athlete because of it. I was so focused when I was a kid on, being liked or trying not to stick out too much. I remember getting very, very nervous in sports if, because things weren't going my way, or, maybe my parents were watching, or the coach had been hard on me. I was just up here, it was
Yeah.
all wacky. And I wish I could just tell that kid, like, you've got to relax and you've got to understand that you can respond in any way you want. But when you're a kid, you have so much riding on
Right.
everything. Life seems so serious all the time. You don't understand the bigger picture yet. And, you know, I would encourage people to take responsibility for their lives. And this is not about blame. Blame, again,
Hmm.
life is about perception. Blame is the negative side of the battery, of the polarity. It's a responsibility. It's a positivity thing, saying, "Oh, that's not how I want to be. I have a belief system that I'm trying to improve. I'm going to start working in this way." And I don't know. A great way to kind of like think about this practically is, there's a quote in Bull Durham, which is one of my favorite movies. It's a baseball movie if you've never
Good
heard of it,
movie.
but
Yeah.
great movie. And it's, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, and sometimes it rains. And it's just,
Mm.
it's
That's a
so
good quote.
profound because it's so basic, and like, no matter the outcome, this too shall pass. You're gonna be fine.
Hmm.
Let it go. Have a smile on your face. Get closer to God. Breathe.
Yes.
Take care of your body, and let
I
your
love that.
emotions guide you. Don't let your logic guide you.
Mm. Very nice. I love that. All of that. I have like 700 more questions for you. But we're already
If
past
you
an
got any
hour.
more, I'm here. Go. I mean, you got me.
All right. Let's do it. I got a couple more
Sure.
for you.
Yeah, let's go.
That was such a good way to end it off. But we'll just keep going. I do have a couple more for you. I
Okay.
did want to ask you about being an author. This is kind of like not so much on the
We're off script now.
you
Let's
know
go.
sports sports type focus, but can you tell me, and like, I know, I'm sure for you, I would assume, like, as for many people, like, writing is very therapeutic in some ways, but like, do you do, you said your like content and stuff for like TikTok is kind of like, a personal journal of your journey and stuff. What are your thoughts and feelings about journaling, and like kind of the just the overall like benefits for like peace of mind that can kind of give you?
I think journaling is one of the absolute best things that any person can do. I have got
Hmm.
thousands of old entries that I publish to a little private Patreon community for people who don't want to work, one
Oh
on
yeah.
one, which is a pretty big financial investment. So the Patreon's super cheap. It's like $10 a month, and I publish old journals, and then I publish scripts that I put on TikTok and whatnot. And it's just, having a daily writing exercise is crucial. And I even created
Mm-hmm.
a little PDF abundance journal with prompts that get you in the mood to write this one's, like I said, about abundance. And it's not just financial abundance. There's abundance of everything. If you have carpet, you have an abundance of little fibers under your feet. There's abundance of trees. There's abundance of rain. There's abundance of everything. Like, you're just living
You
in
can
this
have an
world
abundance
of,
of lack. I mean, it's everything. Yeah.
oh, and that's what a lot of people choose, is an abundance of lack.
Right.
So writing, especially if you're not trying to be a writer, but it's just a way to get things out of your head, basically. And there's a sense of accomplishment to it, having done it. I would write, if you're really trying to be specific about it and you don't want to just do some free pages and you've kind of been doing it for a while, I would probably write love letters to the universe. Thank you notes, like, thank you so much for this and that and this and that.
I love that.
Yeah, and
That's so cute.
the things that you want, write them out. Like, you're perfect. Like, just give yourself some time.
Yeah.
And if you're more serious about writing, you can probably tear out and throw away those morning pages, because they're just getting your juices flowing. But writing is such an incredible tool for everybody, because it really does tell your story. And you don't have to be good at it, but you're just telling your story. And you're learning about your belief systems. You're learning about what it is that defines you. And those are the small tweaks that you got to make. You've got to give yourself permission to let go of all that pain, because no one's ever going to fix it for you. No one's going to reach into you and rip it out of you. You have to let go of it. You have to choose to feel a certain way, a different sort of way, regardless of the world saying, like, oh, well, you have every right in the world to feel like crap, but you choose joy instead. Why is that? It's like, oh, well, because it feels so much better. And it's a huge cheat code in life, and I'm getting everything I want because of it. Right? So I love journaling. I mean, it pays my bills. It's such a beautiful form of communication, and it's storytelling. And our lives are stories, and we are writing them as we go. So you have to take care and make the time and do it. It's crucial.
Yes. I mean, yeah, and I love it too. And I like the point. I like that you said it's like storytelling, because I mean, and it can be. And I love if you're writing to yourself and you don't think anyone else is going to see it, you can tell whatever story you want. And that right there is sort of, getting into like the creation mindset, because you can make decisions and you just tell it like it is. And, this is how it's going to be, and decide that, this is what you're going to accomplish, and putting it down on paper. There's something really magical about like actually putting it down on paper, or I actually type mine into my phone, but I mean, like actually like just writing it out. I think it just like kind of like subconsciously like ingrains in your brain a little bit deeper when you actually like see the words and you can like go back and reread them. I just think it's like a really powerful tool, and I just wanted to get the take from an actual writer.
Yes.
Get your thoughts on it.
That's a great connection about being the creator. That's what creativity is. That is a perfect bridge, a perfect parallel to make. It's excellent.
Awesome. Yeah, we're all the creators of our own little universe, and we can get into the multiverse and all that good stuff, but maybe that's another time. It's a wormhole.
It is.
Anyway, I think we'll cut it off there. It's already way past an hour, but this has been so fantastic, and I feel like we barely just got started, because we could just go on forever. But TK, thank you so much for joining me today and all of your information. I'm going to be posting with the summary of the episode all kinds of links to your websites and your book and all of that good stuff. So if you have any interest in TK's writings, please make sure to check that out. And you also do like some like the consulting and kind of life coaching. It's not life coaching, but it is kind of life coaching kind of thing. So if you would like some guidance in learning how to create and manifest with TK, he's available to do that, and we'll put the link to his website as well. So thank you so much for being with me today. It was such a pleasure.
Thank you.
And everyone else, please make sure you check out spiritual-athletes.com for, follow us on our socials, and subscribe for future episodes so we can keep sharing really fun content. So thanks again, and we'll see you next time.